crossing.
Government to meet with some of their counterparts from China. And there are some of the familiar faces for you. You can see Park Stao, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Khumbuzo Ntshabeni. She, of course, is the Minister in the Presidency. Stella Ndabeni-Abrams, Small Business Minister. I beg your pardon. Mameloko Kubai, Bladen Zamande. You can see there Dr. Hossein Ramaphosa. And an interesting dynamic this time around, of course, is that we're living in the times of a GNU. So you're seeing DA deployed ministers, if you like, including Public Works Minister there, Dean McPherson, who's also present. The President of South Africa is also obviously going to be there. He's expected to have an engagement with Xi Jinping, his counterparts in China, and they're expected to have a wide range of discussions. We're told a major announcement on trade relations and other global political issues is expected sometime today. Still no telling, of course, what that looks like and what it entails. What we do know, of course, at the moment is that China is South Africa's biggest trading partner, billions of rand trading hands, if you like, between the two nations. And so there's plenty at stake to make sure that we get this right. And so that's why we'll be watching this very closely. It also comes off on the eve of the China Cooperation Summit, which is going to also unfold. That's what we're expecting about 50 countries on the continent to be represented. They'll be in discussions with the People's Republic of China in order to also enhance these multilateral relations. Well, the dynamic as it stands is a bit of an interesting one. Depending who you ask, there are people who believe that the trading partnership isn't necessarily on level field. China apparently having some kind of advantage, at least insofar as the arrangements are concerned at the moment.
中南关系提升为新时代全方位战略合作伙伴关系。接下来，我愿意就两国关系发展深入的交流。下面听你谈。
fondly recall your fourth state visit to South Africa last year as we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic relations between South Africa and our two countries and China. I reaffirmed that our political rapport and relationship is the foundation of an unwavering and valuable friendship. You declared that our two countries have entered a golden era of cooperation. South Africa is pleased as you have proposed to upgrade our comprehensive strategic partnership to an all-round strategic cooperative partnership in the new era. This for us is most pleasing. This is pleasing because it will elevate our mutual beneficial political and economic ties for the benefit of both our countries and our peoples. South Africa has entered a new period in our 30 years of democracy. The newly formed Government of National Unity continues to place the achievement of the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the pursuit of a better Africa and a better world at the center of our foreign policy. As our history demands, South Africa will continue to pursue progressive internationalism. We remain committed to the One China policy. Our two countries share many common objectives. Building on the firm foundation of solidarity, we continue to provide support in promoting our interests, those of the African continent and the global South. I'm confident that we will have the opportunity to openly exchange views on many issues regarding our political, economic, and technical cooperation as outlined in the 10-year strategic program of cooperation. I'm also confident, Your Excellency, that we will find common ground on key regional issues and other global challenges. I'm also confident that these shared sentiments will be expressed in our joint declaration. We have witnessed an increase in our bilateral trade. However, South Africa would like to, in a way, address the issue of the trade deficit and address the structure of our trade. We were encouraged by the inward procurement mission of Chinese companies last year when they visited South Africa. We urge for more sustainable manufacturing and job-creating investments. Development cooperation between our two countries continues to grow, covering many areas. We welcome the progress made in several FOCAC-related projects. Last year, South Africa hosted the 10th BRICS Summit, and we really appreciated China's support for the positive outcomes that were achieved then. So South Africa will continue to support China in delivering a successful FOCAC Summit. So thank you very much for welcoming us here, and our friendship continues as it has continued.
certainly our top story at 10. African leaders set to attend the China-Africa Cooperation Summit in Beijing, which is set to begin on Wednesday. These ally officials coming from that country as South Africa's delegation prepares to meet with their counterparts in China. We stay with news making international headlines. Thousands of Israelis have flooded the streets demanding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's resignation over his failure to sing from that country. This in the expecting hold of these counties 20 on the 4 made up of 4 and 85. So we'll tell you a bit more about that as soon as it begins. But let's take you back to Beijing now, because there's plenty on the go. We've just spotted, there you have it, President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping now meeting the South African delegation as part of this official state visit to the country. Once again, if you've just joined us, we're told of a major announcement on trade, investment, and other things expected sometime later on today. Global political issues certainly top of the agenda for many of these delegates, let's call them, who are going to be involved in these multi-sectoral engagements. The agriculture minister there, John Steenhuisen, we can see, it seems like a joke was cracked there with Public Works Minister Dean McPherson. President Cyril Ramaphosa is going to have this engagement just before the China-Africa Cooperation Summit kicks off on Wednesday, we're told, where there's going to be 50 heads of states from the African continent who are going to meet with President Xi Jinping in that country. I wonder if we're able to take in the sights and sounds from what's taking place there, which is always something worth considering. So let's just dip in for you, get your sense of the mood in the room in Beijing. All right, so those are live visuals coming from the Great Hall in Beijing. That's where we anticipate the official start, if you like, of this bilateral engagement between South Africa and China. In frame there, you can see the two leaders of the country, our President Cyril Ramaphosa and his counterpart Xi Jinping, as they observe, I guess, what is characteristic of these kind of engagements, the kind of pomp and ceremony that precedes the very important discussions that are likely to take place behind closed doors before we are told of these great announcements, which I've been alluding to for much of the morning. The Chinese military, of course, known for their unbelievable synchronicity. I mean, there is just this unparalleled sense of organization and preparation, I suppose, for lack of a better term. And that's all on display today as we watch these two heads of states observe, as I mentioned, what is expected as per tradition before they have these discussions. There's been all kinds of discussions around what South Africa should bring to the table as part of these talks, and there are hopes of a major focus on agriculture, for example, in order to ensure that we're able to boost our own returns as China looks to expand its own foothold in Africa, generally speaking, and I imagine in South Africa strategically. It seems there's also a whole lot more of a chanting, uncharacteristic, dare I say, for China. Let's continue listening in. Right, live visuals once again, they're coming out of the Great Hall in Beijing. That all-important meeting between South Africa and China set to officially get underway. The pomp and ceremony has been done and dusted. Always quite the spectacle, but now I suppose it's about getting down to business. Several ministers from South Africa, I imagine, will also want to make sure that their own sectors are prioritized. There are hopes that whatever emerges from this will have a huge impact, especially for small businesses. We saw there the Small Business Minister, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, present. President Ramaphosa has also been spotted, as well as the Agriculture Minister, John Steenhuisen. Always very interesting, of course, to see how these bilateral engagements unfold and ultimately what they mean for the ordinary person on the street. If you're trying to connect the dots insofar as that is concerned, stick around. We'll certainly break it down for you.
这交换完了，一定要小港口。出来你看一下，这种。不是那个拿的是方上去，这个得看文档，这文档一年哦，先大盘，你看看完了。钱都给花别的去了，他这个南非这个好望角的地方发现过火车，高度怀疑是从他妈的圆明园桥在那儿发。
下面请洪部长发言。
那不是对圆明园。
Welcome Minister Bai and his counterpart to come to the seat. 他们签署的是住房和人民建设合作料备。They are signing the memorandum.
3层，最外边是民兵，中间他们正规部队，里边咱的武警，全是他妈是男的。几年前有一个炸弹在那不远的地方炸了，里边的炮弹皮他们还做了个雕塑，养着
outcome, but there is no overstating just how important this particular engagement will be in a context where, of course, China is South Africa's biggest trading partner as things stand. And I imagine both countries are looking to harness that relationship as they enter this new era of global politics, so to speak, keeping a very close eye on the situation there in Beijing.
Your Excellency, President
heads of state will witness the signing of 8 documents.
首先，请郑山杰主任和恩奇曼迪部长入座。
I first invite Minister Nzimandi and Chairman Zheng Shanjie to take a seat.
他们签署的是北斗卫星导航系统应用领域合作协议。
They are signing the MOU on Beidou Navigation Satellite System Application Cooperation.
下面，请倪虹部长和库巴伊部长入座。
May I invite Minister Kubai and Minister Ni Hong to take a seat.
他们签署的是住房和人居建设合作量备。
They're signing the MOU on Sustainable Housing and Human Settlements Development Cooperation.
下面，请王文涛部长和帕克斯陶部长入座。
May I invite Minister Tao and Minister Wang Wentao to take a seat.
他们签署的是深化双边贸易合作量备。
They're signing the MOU on deepening bilateral trade cooperation.
下面，请部长和斯汀霍森部长入座。
May I invite Minister Steenhuisen and Minister Yu Jianhua to take a seat.
他们签署的是口蹄疫防控、舒华乳品、原羊毛议定书。
They're signing the Memorandum on FMD Prevention and Control Cooperation, Protocol on Inspection, Quarantine and Sanitary Requirements for Dairy Products, and Protocol for Greasy Wool Export.
加强领域交流合作协议。
They're signing the agreement on strengthening exchanges and cooperation.
下面，请贺军科书记和恩奇曼迪部长入座。
May I invite Minister Nzimandi and Secretary He Junke to take a seat.
他们签署的是中国科学与南非科学创新部合作量备。
They're signing the MOU between the DSI and the CAST.
签字仪式到此结束，谢谢习近平主席，谢谢拉马福萨总统，谢谢大家。
The signing ceremony now concludes. Thank you, President Xi Jinping and President Ramaphosa. Thank you.
Yes, Nompi, we are coming live from Beijing, China. Earlier on, President Cyril Ramaphosa had a meeting with his Chinese counterpart, President Xi Jinping. This is the state visit. As you know that last year, President Xi Jinping, on the margins of BRICS, did embark on a state visit in South Africa, where he made promises in terms of strengthening the relations between the two countries. And therefore, the president decided that before the Forum for China-Africa Cooperation Summit on Wednesday, he will do the same. And they met today. The focus was on how South Africa and China can work together in terms of strengthening the relationship between the two countries. Those relationships revolves around trade and investment, issues of agriculture, science and technology, culture, and also the issue of electricity or supply of energy. And we saw the two countries exchanging views and also signing agreements. 8 of those agreements were signed by ministers of agriculture, minister of Public Works, and the Minister of Electricity, including the Minister of Science and Technology. We are told that this will take the relationship to a higher level because particularly on issues of agriculture, they are going to find a way to resolve the issue of South Africa exports to China. As you know that China is a huge market. We know that trade between the two countries is skewed and it is in favor of China. And with these agreements, they are trying to narrow that deficit. And the president saying that he's confident that signing these agreements will assist in addressing the issue of trade imbalance. We also know that they also spoke about challenges facing the continent, issues of peace and security, and also globally peace and security. As you know that China has been playing a very important role in trying to ensure that Ukraine and Russia do have those talks, and finally that war in Ukraine is handled, and therefore you have peace in Ukraine. But the issue of the Middle East, you know that a few weeks ago, the leadership of Hamas was in the country, including other groups in Middle East, particularly in Palestine, to try and come together to agree on a way forward in addressing challenges facing Palestine. As you know that currently the country is struggling after those bombardment of Israel on Gaza, and some of them extending to even other areas outside Gaza. And therefore the issue of peace and security globally featured high on the agenda. The strengthening of the South-South, as you know that both countries belong to countries of the South, and also President Ramaphosa saying that South Africa will be hosting the G20 summit next year, and therefore it is expected that President Xi Jinping will attend that G20 summit next year. And President saying that again at that summit, high on the agenda will be how the countries of the South or the developing South will work together to ensure that they address challenges facing their respective countries, and perhaps a call to the developed countries to assist the developing nations. Tomorrow, the president will have another meeting in some areas or in the parts of China to see what China is doing in terms of development. And later then it will be on Wednesday where the focus will be now on FOCAC, and also on Thursday. We know that many heads of states and government have already arrived here in China, and that meeting of African heads of state and government with the head of state of China, Xi Jinping, is expected again to focus on strengthening the trade relations between Africa and China. We know that currently Africa is the largest trading partner of China when you look at different regions around the world. Back to you in studio, Nompu.